Before we start, 90% of our viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. Please subscribe and make me happy. Now, let's get into the video. The movie starts with a romance thriller plot set in 19th century Cuba. Luis Antonio Vargas is a wealthy coffee merchant, a pragmatic man who believes he is incapable of falling in love. For him, marriage is just a practical arrangement, more like a business deal than anything else. Luis is driven by his work, running a successful coffee business, and he has no time for personal affairs. He firmly thinks that love is unnecessary and overrated, something that can cloud one's judgment. Because he is too busy to find a wife in traditional ways, he starts corresponding with an American woman named Julia Russell through mail-order bride services. Luis and Julia exchange letters for some time, and Julia agrees to travel to Cuba to marry him. However, when the day comes to finally meet his future bride at the docks, Luis is shocked to see a woman who looks nothing like the one in the photos. The woman explains herself, claiming she did not send her real photo because she wanted him to marry her for her soul and personality, not just for her looks. She wanted to be loved for who she is on the inside. This intrigues Luis, and although Julia is not what he expected, he decides to marry her anyway. Luis, who also kept his own secret, had never mentioned in his letters that he was a wealthy man with a successful business. He wanted to ensure that Julia would love him for himself and not for his fortune. The two get married soon after in a simple church ceremony, and Luis brings Julia to his estate. Their wedding is traditional, but their relationship begins cautiously. Julia insists that they sleep in separate rooms, explaining that she is not ready to share a bed with someone she hardly knows. She values the respect Luis shows her by not pressuring her, and Luis patiently waits for her to feel comfortable. The next morning, Julia brings Luis breakfast in bed, and he learns more about her. To his surprise, Julia drinks coffee, though tea. She explains that her sister used to help her write letters, and she didn't want to reveal everything about herself right away. This little revelation makes Luis question. They settle into their new life, and slowly Julia allows Luis into her bed. Their relationship deepens, and Luis starts to fall in love with his wife, enjoying this new chapter in his life. Luis shares his happiness with his business partner, and they begin to discuss Julia, noting that she hasn't been seen in public much since the wedding. Concerned for his friend, Luis invites his partner to join them for a night out at the theater. At the performance, something strange happens. When a certain actor appears on stage, Julia becomes visibly anxious. During the intermission, she excuses herself and steps out of the theater, with Luis following close behind. He finds her backstage, talking to the actor who had caused her distress. But when Luis questions her about it, Julia brushes him off, using her passion and charm to distract him. A few days later, Luis receives a letter from Julia's sister, Emily, who is concerned about Julia's well-being. She hasn't heard from her sister since she left for Cuba and wants to know if Julia is adjusting to her new life. Emily is so worried that she contacted the local embassy to check on her sister's whereabouts. Luis asks Julia to write back, and she reluctantly agrees, though she seems anxious about it. That night, Julia has a terrible nightmare, waking up screaming. When Luis rushes to her side to comfort her, he notices several scars on her back. Julia quickly covers up the scars and refuses to talk about them. The next day, Julia prepares to send the letter to Emily, but Luis offers to take it to the post office for her. He then takes her to the bank, offering her access to his accounts and any money she may need for personal use. Julia seems surprised by his generosity, but quickly agrees. She tells Luis she plans to visit the tailor to have some new dresses made for herself. Luis's world starts to unravel when a private investigator named Walter shows up. Walter introduces himself as someone hired by Emily, Julia's sister, to check on her well-being. Walter expresses doubts about Julia's identity and insists on meeting her. Luis, feeling cornered, invites Walter to dinner at their home. That night, Julia becomes agitated. Her usual calm demeanor is replaced by nervousness, and she becomes irritable, even to the point of killing her pet bird when its singing annoys her. Luis, growing more suspicious, starts to piece things together. Soon after, Emily herself shows up at Luis's workplace, showing him a letter that she received from Julia. but Emily is certain that the handwriting is not her sister's. Realizing that something is terribly wrong, Louise rushes home to find that Julia has fled, taking all of her belongings and leaving behind her chest. Inside the chest, Louise finds photographs of the real Julia, along with her clothes, revealing that the woman he married is an imposter. Desperate and heartbroken, Louise goes to the bank and learns that Julia has emptied his accounts, leaving him financially ruined. His love for her turns to torment, and he starts drinking heavily, wandering from one questionable establishment to the next. Eventually, he meets Walter again, who reveals that he's not actually looking for Julia's sister, but for Louise's wife, the con woman who has tricked him. Together, they form an uneasy alliance to track her down. They trace Julia, who they now know is really named Bonnie, to a hotel where she is staying with another man, Colonel Vors. Louise confronts Bonnie, who confesses that she and her accomplice Billy planned to rob Louis from the very beginning. Billy, who is posing as a detective, had orchestrated the entire scheme. They met the real Julia on the ship, and after disposing of her, Bonnie took her place, marrying Louis to get access to his wealth. However, Bonnie confesses that she fell in love with Louis, and that's why she ran away. Louis, despite everything, still loves Bonnie. He can't bring himself to kill her, and the two spend the night together. The next morning, Bonnie tells Louis about her childhood, growing up in an orphanage with Billy. They both became actors and thieves, robbing wealthy men and leaving them penniless. Billy had planned to have Bonnie seduce Colonel Vors next, but Louise's love for Bonnie complicates everything. Bonnie begins to regret her life of crime, but Billy won't let her go. Walter, who is actually Billy in disguise, confronts them at their new hideout, demanding that Bonnie finish the job and kill Louis to take the rest of his money. But Bonnie can't go through with it. In a violent confrontation, Billy is shot and killed. In the final moments of the film, Bonnie confesses everything to a priest while awaiting her execution. But the priest, captivated by her beauty and charm, helps her escape. Bonnie reunites with Louis, and the two of them disappear, living off their skills in card games and small cons, bound together by love, deceit, and a shared dark past. That concludes the recap. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Original Sin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling stories. Stay tuned for our next movie review.